Right away, I can tell you this is something very special because it also has the air suspension. Of course, the RS7 is very special, and the A7 body itself is basically just a supermodel. I mean, these angles are incredible, and it's pretty much one of those cars that looks like it's going to stand the test of time with design. Just that back end is something to behold. So today, I'm going to show you the S7. It's the middle child, I would say, and we should not ignore the middle child. Do you really need an RS7, or is the S7 good enough? Let's take a look at the inside. While the air conditioning is blasting, it's obviously black on black, gets a little warm in there, but look at the sexy interior. 2016 now includes an Alcantara door liner, and well, in general, it's just a beautiful car. And it's not as baller as the RS7, but sometimes you don't really need all that power. Let's have a little bit of fun inside. Now overall, the stereo in here is a really kickin' Bang Olufsen stereo, and these are the tweeters that pop up when the car is started, when the system's activated. And you can also tell it's a Bang Olufsen with these metallic speaker grills, which are just absolutely over the top. And just the interior in general in this car is top notch. Something you'll notice in this car with the Bang & Olufsen are these microphones here inside the headliner. Okay, that microphone there is actually noise cancellation. Because of this hardcore V8 engine in here, the Bang & Olufsen system actually cancels out the V8's sounds at idle and during other times. So it makes it really quiet in here. So the only loud thing really, and it's a complaint I've had and I've never really shared with people, but in an A6 I used to own, a 2014 A6, the air conditioning fan was really loud when it was on high. It was just this really drony sound because everything else in the car is so damn quiet. You hear the fans, but they're just basically fans. So here I'm going to turn them down. The cool thing is with the fans, I can turn it down for everybody, or I can just change for the passenger. So the passenger can still be full, and I can turn mine down. So it's got separate fan units to be able to accommodate that. And the same goes for the system here in the rear. And that's what makes these cars worth all that extra money, is just there's little things everywhere that assist, and it's just one of those things. I can't get enough of how well thought out these cars are. And I think we've warmed up a little bit on the engine. Yep, got only 46 miles on this one. So because I'm not going to write the $98,000 check, I'm just going to drive like a normal person on these roads, and you'll still be able to get an experience regardless of how you drive. This car is it's just awesome. And I'm going to hand this off to the camera in the back. See, got my GoPro there attached to the glass. And I'm going to drive, and we're going to see what this car sounds like, what this car feels like, and overall just give you a general impression. You don't even have to put your foot in it, it just goes. This thing is just amazing. You know, I have to stay very, very conservative with the power on this thing. It's barely street legal. But right now, transmission is in sport and everything is in dynamic. Actually individual, now we're on dynamic, but the transmission is still in sport. And you can tell with this air suspension, there's a difference when I go to comfort. I don't know if you can necessarily hear it, but I certainly feel the difference on this nasty road. We can always go into auto and then right back to dynamic. It's actually very quiet in here. It's actually very quiet compared to an S4 or the S5. Jeez. The sound of the acceleration doesn't match with the real, with the feeling or with the way the speedometer is indicating speed. I mean, I feel like it's not really pushing me back in the seat, but I look at the speedometer and I look down and I go, oh, how are we possibly doing 50 miles an hour? It doesn't even sound like it. But that's what it does. And I know you've probably seen a lot of videos on the S7. That's why I wanted to do the S7, because, well, it's worth it. We're doing 64 miles an hour, getting on, getting off. It's just a visceral experience. I mean, I am sweating in here, and partly because the AC is down low, so you guys don't have to hear the fans. But I mean, I'm not very nervous behind the wheel. It doesn't usually get to me. It's just that you get this butterflies in the stomach feeling with this car. Sorry for the anticlimactic audio experience. This car is just so damn quiet, even in dynamic mode. Let me put it now into auto and see if we can get anything different out of there. The steering is just so precise, so responsive. Wow. Handle those railroad tracks just fine in auto mode. And it just gets up and goes. I mean, can't even open it up actually. It's too damn fast. Woo-hoo-hoo. Now it's time to go over all the little toys. So once we pull in here to the Audi South Austin dealership, I want to show you everything else that's made to impress in this car. So first off, let's start with the air suspension. With the air suspension, I can actually go to the car settings again, and I can go to raise, and now the car is automatically lifting up in the front and the rear. But what this gives you is the ability to go over some really rough surfaces or some really shady driveways if you're rich neighbors. Not only can you raise it, but you can lower it. And when you put it on dynamic, it'll lower even more. And it does it fairly quickly between auto and dynamic. It does it in a couple seconds. So let me show you one of the best parts of starting up an S7, which actually applies to an A6 as well, when you have them with the Bang Olufsen system and the power tilt telescoping steering wheel. So let me shut it off, and let me open the door. And so you notice that the steering wheel will go into a position, and then the Bang & Olufsen, well, they're not really tweeters, they're some dynamic sound cone, and then the screen gets out of the way. But when you start the car back up, oh yeah, we got our needle swap on the gauges, we get the rising of the Bang & Olufsen and the screen, and then of course our steering wheel will be back in the position here. We have our automatic controls, and once we close the door, we're ready to rock and roll. So let's hear that exhaust again. God. You know, it's not as exciting as the S4. You know, when the S4 revs up, you go, holy moly, that's nice. It's just so sweet. And this thing, though, it's like a guttural beast. This is obviously an interior that is unrivaled. And of course, we have nice S7 embossing on the seats, which also have built-in headrests. And they also have bolt seat bottoms or squabs that can come out. We have great leather in here, and as well, everything here is covered in leather. We also have USB ports now, which is good to have. Well, very good, Audi. Thank you. We're up to date. And then, beyond that, let me just show you what the engine looks like. That is the beast. And after driving it around the block, I could roast marshmallows over this thing. You might not hear the fans on here, but there are some auxiliary fans whirring at the moment. And there's a freeway in the background, so I don't know which one you're going to hear most. But that is the fantastic engine. So much power out of that. Let's check it out all the way around, huh? It rained last night, and well, it's hard to wash a couple hundred cars at a time. This is the most sexiest angle on these cars. You can't duplicate that anywhere. So very similar to the RS7, except this has quad tailpipes, whereas the RS7 has just two round ovals. It still has actually two pipes in each oval, but this look, I think, is subtle. Of course, the spoiler here is dynamic, and it does come up at a certain speed, and you can defeat that and enable it whenever you want. I also want to show you right there, you'll see the speed that we're going 0 miles per hour. That is actually the heads-up display. So as we move, it will, see, change speed. And it's really cool because the focus of that actually makes it appear that it's about 10 feet out. And the whole logic for that, and I'm sorry for the shaky camera, I got a hot cell phone in my hand. The reason why that's 10 feet out is because engineers have found that it's easier to focus out there and keep your eye on the traffic. You're not focusing too far out and then focusing at something at this range, but up at this height, right? So what this allows you to do is still drive and still just glance at that heads-up display. So not only do we get navigation here, we also get navigation in here. And I can zoom in and out of that with this little rotating switch here. So I can have two map views, a redundant display, almost like a G1000 cockpit, and I can do different zoom levels on that one as well. I love this because I can zoom in by turning this knob. I can also zoom out. Radio there, that's this thing here, which are touch sensitive numbers for presets. But if I push in on the knob, now I'm able to move around on the map this way. And if I back out by clicking back, we actually get our numbers back. So if I press in on the map, that changes. That is really cool. So I'm able to, I don't know what kind of surface that is or what that does, but it changes from numbers to map panning on its own. And the surface feels like a mouse pad. So I don't know how they get light and information through the mouse pad like that, like a screen, but that is radical. Driver's assistance, which now includes speed warning, parking aid, and heads up. So in heads up, I can change the brightness and the content. So I'm going to add navigation, and I'm going to add cruise and active lane assist. So active lane assist actually steers the car to keep it in the lane. By pushing this button in here, right, what I get is an icon. That icon there. And it's yellow because there are no lines in front of us right now. There's no lanes. And so it's not going to keep the car within those lanes. That's what the yellow means. It means there's no lane to keep me in. But if you look at heads up now, you see a car with those lanes. And that actually corresponds to what you would see in this display even without heads up. So if I go back to assist, that information right there is the same as that information right there. So once the car discovers a lane and the line marking on the left or the right or both, these lines will turn bright white and this icon will turn green, and in the OSD or the heads up, you will also see the same lanes you see down here lit up there. We have side assist, which these lights here come on when someone is in your blind spot, and it's on both of these cars. And here's something interesting about driver orientation, right? So this is a driver-oriented cockpit because when someone is in your blind spot, you'll see it. And anyone outside the cabin cannot see that they're basically in your blind spot. Which means that if someone's trying to game you on the freeway, you know, they can see the light. In other models of other manufacturers, the light is kind of in the mirror display or on the outer edge. And you can see that on some cars. And if you really wanted to piss people off, you can just hang there, right? So that they would think that they could never change lanes. But in an Audi, they can't see that. So they don't know if they're actually gaming the system or not, right? So that's kind of a cool thing, very driver oriented, only focused on us. We actually have a front, left, and right. So you'll see here on the left is a Q5, and then you'll see here on the right is a GTR. So this camera is showing you what's in the front left and the front right of the car, as if you're pulling out of a situation where the view may be blocked. This is straight ahead, right? And it's very similar to the S6. That's straight behind us. And then that is the left and the right corners. So the right corner shows a Q5, which is over there. And then the left corner over here shows a gray car. That's an A3, which is, well, right there. So if you're in a parking spot, you know, in a typical parking lot, and you want to back out, you can see that this A3 is coming through, and you know you can't back out yet because they're in the way. But that's one of the really cool things. Another thing is, if I go to settings, we can change all the frequencies and the volumes and the stereo volume while we put it in reverse. I probably don't get 360 because these are different design mirrors than the S6. I don't actually see. Well, let's tilt them up. Let's just turn this knob. Yep, I don't see any cameras under there. So that probably explains why I didn't get what I was expecting. No big deal. And as you back up, you can see the radar and the actual car behind me here. That's another A7. And so we can back up as we get closer to the line there. You can see that on the camera, but what you don't see is how close you are to other things, and that's where the radar comes in. And you can hear it. You can hear the actual radar, and as you get closer, it gets a little louder and quicker. And then when it goes full on, you're really close. I think it's around 8 inches, and that's a good stopping point. So you put it on park, it shuts off the sound. You can go like this. And one other thing I have here, and which is nice to have in a V8, especially in traffic, is an auto off switch, which in this case, the start-stop is only active when the system is engaged through the indicator here. So when that is an A without a line through it, it means that the car will automatically start and stop the engine at stop and go traffic. So when you're completely stopped and that's green, the car will shut the engine off and the needle will go to ready. When the car's off, the car goes to off. So in stop and go traffic, you're not using fuel, or if you're in such a thing as like the line at the Starbucks drive-thru, I don't know why you take this through there, but you'd still get the ability to save fuel while you're at a complete stop doing nothing. Because when you're stopped, you're getting 0 miles per gallon. So it's another way to stay efficient. Also, speaking of efficiency, those microphones are actually a part of when the activation or deactivation happens with the V8. So the V8 can actually deactivate cylinders at idle or at speed depending on the load, and what that does is the deactivation of those cylinders create a vibration. And the Bang & Olufsen system here, this has B&O, the Bang & Olufsen system actually uses these microphones to do noise cancellation. That microphone right there. And so when the cylinders are deactivated, noise cancellation kicks in. That's what those are for. So what I said earlier was a little bit incorrect, but if you watch the entire video, thank you very much. And maybe I'll do the RS7 for you sometime soon. Thanks for watching.